Hello and welcome to Star Life, the channel where you discover everything about your favorite celebrities. Today, we dive into the fascinating world of Mick Jagger, a rock icon whose life is a vibrant tapestry of triumphs, scandals, and revelations. As the charismatic frontman of the Rolling Stones, co-writer of songs that define generations, and father of 8 children with 5 different women, Mick Jagger embodies a life lived at full throttle, filled with contradictions and passions. Behind his electrifying performances lies a complex man shaped by decades of fame, personal struggles, turbulent relationships, and decisions that sometimes shocked the world. At 82, after more than 6 decades on stage, Jagger is finally unveiling truths long kept in the shadows. Let's embark on a journey through the extraordinary life of a man who redefined rock and continues to surprise. The origins: a star born in Dartford. Mick Jagger, born Michael Philip Jagger, came into the world on July 26, 1943, in the small town of Dartford, Kent, England. World War II was raging, casting a shadow of uncertainty and resilience over Britain. His father, Basil Joe Jagger, was a respected physical education teacher, a pioneer in introducing basketball to British schools. His mother, Eva Ensley Mary, a hairdresser of Australian descent, brought vibrant energy and an interest in conservative politics to the household. Together, they provided Mick and his younger brother, Chris, with an environment balanced between discipline and encouragement of curiosity. From an early age, Mick was drawn to music like a moth to a flame. Unlike many of his peers from musical families, his love for sound was instinctive. He sang in the local church choir, not out of duty, but out of passion. Traditional hymns, popular songs crackling through the family radio, and the bold programming of Radio Luxembourg, which introduced American rhythm and blues, became his first teachers. Mick didn't just listen. He analyzed, imitated, and dreamed of creating. At 6, he entered Wentworth Primary School, where he met Keith Richards, a boy who shared his fascination with music. Their friendship was instant, forged in heated discussions about records and the simple joys of childhood. But in 1954, at age 11, a family move to Wilmington separated the two friends, and their paths diverged temporarily. At Dartford Grammar School, Mick excelled academically, earning 7 O-levels and 2 A-levels, showcasing an ambition that met his parents' expectations. Yet, a fire burned within him. In the late 1950s, as a teenager, he formed a garage band with his friend Dick Taylor, covering songs by Muddy Waters, Little Richard, and Chuck Berry. These weren't just tunes, they were gateways to a world of rebellion, raw emotion, and authenticity. Mick hunted for blues records with near-religious zeal, each vinyl a piece of a puzzle he was assembling to shape his identity. The fateful reunion and the birth of the Rolling Stones. October 17, 1961, marked a pivotal moment. That morning, on the platform of Dartford Station, 18-year-old Mick spotted Keith Richards again. Tucked under his arm were records by Chuck Berry and Muddy Waters, treasures that immediately caught Keith's eye. This chance encounter reignited their connection, and what began as a nostalgic chat became the spark of a musical revolution. The two friends started meeting regularly, sharing records, playing riffs, and dreaming of a future where their music could conquer the world. With Dick Taylor, Alan Etherington, and Bob Beckwith, they formed the Blues Boys, a band dedicated to recreating the raw sound of Chicago blues. While other teenagers focused on school dances, Mick and Keith chased a deeper calling, capturing the soul of the blues. Meanwhile, Mick enrolled at the London School of Economics on a scholarship, studying finance and accounting. For a time, he considered conventional careers, journalism, politics, business, and later acknowledged seeing parallels between the theatrics of politics and being a rock star. But the pull of music was too strong. In 1962, the Blues Boys evolved with the arrival of Brian Jones and Ian Stewart, transforming their rehearsals into something electric. The Rolling Stones were born not from a calculated plan, but from raw passion and youthful audacity. The rise of the Rolling Stones, glory and storms. On July 12, 1962, the Rolling Stones played their first gig at the Marquee Club in London, named after a Muddy Waters song. With makeshift equipment and boundless energy, the band, Mick on vocals, Keith and Brian Jones on guitars, Ian Stewart on piano, Dick Taylor on bass, and Mick Avery on drums, planted the seeds of a legend. In 1963, their 5-month residency at the Eel Pie Island Hotel, a bohemian haunt on the Thames, honed their sound and tightened their chemistry. The arrival of Andrew Loog Oldham, a young visionary manager, changed everything. Oldham crafted the Stones' image as rebels, in contrast to the polished Beatles. Most crucially, he pushed Mick and Keith to write their own songs. Their first hit, The Last Time, 1965, followed by the iconic I Can't Get No Satisfaction, catapulted the Stones to the top. Satisfaction, with its searing riff and provocative lyrics, captured the spirit of a youth craving freedom. Other hits followed: Paint It Black, Ruby Tuesday, Let's Spend the Night Together, anthems that defined an era. But fame brought scrutiny. In 1967, sensationalist articles accused the Stones of debauchery. A police raid on Keith Richards' Redlands estate led to legal troubles for Mick and Keith, charged with minor drug offenses. Their sentences, 3 months for Mick, a year for Keith, were seen as an attempt to suppress the counterculture. An editorial in The Times, titled Who Breaks a Butterfly on a Wheel, defended the Stones, and their convictions were reduced on appeal. Their outlaw image was cemented. Tragedy struck in 1969 with Brian Jones' downfall. Plagued by personal issues, he drifted from the band. In June, Mick, Keith, and Charlie Watts visited him to ask him to leave. Brian agreed, and Mick Taylor replaced him. Less than a month later, on July 3, Brian was found dead in his pool at 27. The loss shook the Stones, and their Hyde Park concert 2 days later became a moving tribute. Dressed in white, Mick read a Shelley poem before the band played, releasing butterflies into the sky. The end of the 1960s brought another tragedy: the Altamont Free Concert in California on December 6, 1969. Intended as a West Coast Woodstock, the event turned chaotic. The Hells Angels, hired for security, lost control, and a fatal altercation occurred during Under My Thumb. Mick, struck by a fan upon arrival, kept playing to avoid a riot, but the event, captured in Gimme Shelter, tarnished the Stones' image. Despite these trials, their resilience propelled them to new heights. The 1980s, cracks in the Glimmer Twins. In the 1970s, despite turbulence, Mick and Keith, dubbed the Glimmer Twins, produced legendary albums: Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, Some Girls. But the 1980s brought tensions. The rise of MTV and Mick's solo ambitions clashed with Keith's loyalty to the Stones' roots. In 1985, Mick's solo album She's the Boss, followed by Primitive Cool, wounded Keith, who saw it as a betrayal. Their 1986 album Dirty Work reflected this fracture, recorded in a strained atmosphere. Keith publicly mocked Mick, calling him Brenda or Her Majesty, ridiculing his ego. In his memoir, Life, Keith didn't spare Mick, describing a relationship marked by decades of rivalry. Mick fueled the tensions too. In 2003, he accepted a knighthood, which Keith deemed incompatible with their rebel image. Yet, their bond, forged in music, remained unbreakable. As Keith put it, they were no longer friends but brothers, bound by shared history and unique chemistry. A turbulent personal life. Behind Mick Jagger's magnetic stage presence lay a personal life as intense as his performances. His relationship with Marianne Faithfull in the 1960s embodied the era's fervor. Their passionate love was shattered by the loss of a child in 1969, a tragedy that marked them deeply. Mick buried himself in work, while Marianne battled her own demons. In 1970, Mick began a romance with Marcia Hunt, who gave birth to his first daughter, Karis. Their relationship faded, but Mick remained a discreetly attentive father. In 1971, he married Bianca Perez-Mora Macias in a glamorous Saint-Tropez wedding. Their daughter, Jade, was born that year, but Mick's infidelities led to a 1978 divorce. Bianca later said their marriage ended the day it began. Jerry Hall, met in 1977, became his longest-lasting partner. They had 4 children: Elizabeth, James, Georgia, and Gabriel. Their union, marked by a 1990 Bali ceremony, later deemed invalid, collapsed in 1999 after Mick fathered Lucas with Luciana Jimenez. This betrayal broke Jerry. In 2014, Mick faced personal tragedy with the suicide of his longtime partner, Ren Scott, after over a decade together. The loss shook him, prompting a rare public expression of grief. Later, he found balance with Melanie Hamrick, mother of his 8th child, Devereaux, born in 2016. At 73, Mick embraced a more relaxed approach to fatherhood, committed to supporting his son. Reflections of a legend. At 82, Mick Jagger speaks with newfound candor. He admits that being a rock star, while thrilling, often left him intellectually unfulfilled. He reflects on his early interest in teaching or journalism, paths that might have brought different fulfillment. Tours, despite their glamour, often left him isolated, and his relationship with Keith, though contentious, remains rooted in musical complicity. Today, Mick focuses on creation and legacy. His work on Hackney Diamonds with artists like Lady Gaga and Paul McCartney reflects a desire to share rather than dominate. He jokes about posthumous tours via technology, but his legacy is already immense. Conclusion: your favorite moment? Mick Jagger's story is one of genius, chaos, and reinvention. What's your favorite Rolling Stones song or moment? Share it in the comments. If you enjoyed this dive into Jagger's life, like, share, and subscribe to Star Life for more stories about music legends. See you soon.